So our first speaker is Andrew Williams. And Andrew once spent 4 months camping in the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa. His art was featured in the Italian version of Wired magazine. And Andrew has a side hustle choosing music that's played in-store in large retail outlets. Andrew, come on up and share your fuck up.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to start my story with a lesson. Sometimes doing nothing is better than doing the wrong thing. And what the wrong thing is going to become fairly apparent quickly. To set the scene, the year is 2008. I'm a fresh-faced 20-year-old. I'm an economics student in the middle of an economic crisis. And I'm desperate for a job. And like many other people that are desperate, I went to the classified ads at the back of the newspaper. So I opened up the Calgary Herald and I found this job posting. Now, I don't know at the time I didn't know what air care really meant or what a specialist did, but I had no experience. And it was that skill set that I brought to a number of interviews. And in these interviews, they told me about how this job is going to change my life and it's going to unlock some financial freedom and really just build me up. And you know what? I got the job. I was going to be a specialist. In what? I didn't know. Throughout the entire process, they never told me what we would actually be doing. And if you're, thinking that, maybe you should have flagged that as an issue, but, I was 20. When you go through life with rose-colored glasses, it's very hard to see red flags. Now, just a little preview. I end up going to training one Monday morning, and they build it up, and finally they show us what we're going to be selling, and that's right, it's a vacuum cleaner. By air care specialist, they mean door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesperson. And so this is the TriStar vacuum, and I'm just going to ask you, how much do you think this thing costs? Just shout it out. 200? 3 grand? 99. Yeah, $2,600. Yeah. And so over the next 3 days, they, took me through their patented sales and marketing training process. And this process was to memorize an hour-and-a-half sales presentation that we were going to do in people's homes. And as a fun aside, I just want to take you through some of it so that you, too, can be a shady door-to-door salesperson. Step 1, use social obligation to get in the door. You see, the company had a call center that would call up every house that we would knock on and let them know that an air care specialist was in the area, and if you just listen to a 5-minute demo, you can get a free gift. And of course, you're wondering what that free gift was. Well, of course, it was the Ginsu knife. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it was really big in the 90s and the early 2000s. They were always cutting shoes with it on TV. I don't know what that has to do with vacuums or air care. It was bizarre to start with. But okay, so say we get in the door. The key to staying in the house is to build the fear. Fear of keeping up with the neighbors, fear of not being clean enough. But the one fear that they really made us stick on is fear of dust mites. And the way we built this fear is by porting around a portable DVD player that had clips of an Anderson Cooper CNN investigative report on on dust mites and the dangers and how you have to vacuum your monitor twice a week, which I'm sure everyone in this room is doing. And every time I did this part of the sales presentation, I could just see people's eyes go from like confusion to contempt. And like, really, they shouldn't be afraid of dust mites. They should be afraid of the guy dumping bags of dirt in their living room, trying to get them to buy a $1,600 or $2,600 vacuum cleaner. Now, lastly, it was all about high-pressure sales tactics. So add pressure, start from the very beginning, but time pressure, warranty, you were going to give you extra stuff, free repairs for life, all of these things, pressure, pressure, pressure. So after a couple weeks of doing this, I just wanted to cover my results. So at least 50 houses that I went to, I sold 0 vacuums. And actually, I was down money because, of course, this was a commission job. And I had to pay for gas and lunches and things like that. My dignity was nowhere to be seen. And when I say my mental health at the time was not good, yeah, it was at the lowest it's been at that time in my life. And, I was always asking, like, is this really the job that I'm going to work at? Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, who the fuck am I? Like, this is terrible. And I started kind of contemplating, and I realized there's a lesson in this experience as well. Difficult doesn't mean worthwhile. Doesn't automatically mean worthwhile. At the time, I was both stubborn and insecure. And so I would double, triple, quadruple down doing things that maybe didn't serve me or really anyone else. And so when you're going through a hard time or contemplating a big project, you're going to come across difficulties. Really make sure that they're worthwhile for yourself, for the people you're around you, for the planet, for whatever it is you're trying to do. Now, to end tonight, I'm going to tell you about the final house that I went to. This is actually it. I found it on Google Maps. And, I knocked on the door and I met this man. And this man is kind of a big deal. And why that is will become apparent in a second. But this man very kindly let me go through my entire presentation, all hour and a half. But for every minute of it, he was a fucking asshole. Like constantly attacking me, criticizing me, making fun of me. He was just destroying me from start to finish. I think he was bored. I think I was just the afternoon entertainment. It was a quiet house on a quiet, secluded street. It was gloomy, it was depressing. It was not a good time for any of us, but he might have been having a good time. And so, I get to my final, the end of the pitch, I sell you the price, $2,600, he laughs in my face. And this is the trigger. This is the moment where there's one last Hail Mary that they taught us to do. And that's to ask them if I can use your phone to call my boss to let him know that I did the presentation. And so, I do that. But this is really the secret time for my boss to offer him the VIP price. And that's for the very low $1,600, which I think is, very normal for a vacuum cleaner. And so him and my boss start getting into an argument on the phone. And my head's in my hands. I'm in his kitchen. I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my life. He hangs up the phone, and it's time for me to get out of there. And that's where it gets a little weird. He comes up to me, and he hands me this. And he asks me, do you know what this is? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Just let me go. I don't care. And he says, it's a penis clamp. And my blood went cold. What the fuck just happened? A penis clamp? Am I going to end up in a GIMP mask in his basement? What is happening? He follows up. He says, I'm something of an entrepreneur myself. And he hands me a fucking pamphlet. And in this pamphlet is a few diagrams in surprising detail of how one affixes said penis clamp, but also quite a few images of like self-satisfied older men that presumably are very pleased to not be peeing themselves, because this is an incontinence clamp to save men from their incontinence problems. And so, you know, he had apparently built a company, and he was very proud of it. And so he leans in one more time. He says, "You know, son, you're gonna need this penis clamp one day. This one's on the house." And I get the hell out of there, and I get to the car, have a full mental breakdown, as you'd expect, and quit the job right then. As I reflect on this story over the years, and I did some research on him after the fact, and turns out he is kind of a big deal. He created the dribble stop. And it's a big deal in the world of male urinary incontinence clamps, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with. It's like he's got patents in multiple countries. He's like sold like hundreds of thousands of them. He's done a thing. And as I think about this story, and as I've gone back to it over the years, over and over again, I realized he actually taught me a lesson about, you know, how I could spend my time. Don't manufacture problems in order to sell products. Build products that solve real problems. This man has helped out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men with their awkward but important problem. And so, to end my talk tonight, I would like to raise a toast to Henry Rennick. May we heed his advice, but never need his product.
Andrew, that was awesome. Thank you for that very entertaining story with an incredible twist and a really good lesson at the end. So we're gonna open it up for some Q&A.